previous week, the last session, I tried to cover, the foundation for Moolya, why Moolya, what is the, how, what is the vision behind starting and how it took a while, and finally, Moolya started to articulate its vision. And then we looked at, different views or approaches that is, uh, more common in the industry. And then I try to conclude how, one specific view is more relevant to Moolya's vision, and how, we align with, or we built on top of the context-driven, view of testing, and also try to help you people to understand why why context driven testing is more relevant towards our vision. And then that is what we covered last week. So especially if you look at the four views and then looking at the core beliefs, especially by looking at usability or testing without specs or your certification, all those, with that I try to help you to understand how that school of thinking or testing view helps Moolya's vision. So that is what we have seen in the first session. So next 3 weeks we will see what are the various things that we structures or thought process techniques at a high level that will help you to make the vision a reality. Okay, so before getting into Moolya way of testing, today I'm going to touch upon a general concept, nothing to do with Moolya. Last week it's more about why Moolya. So maybe next couple of weeks is more about Moolya way of testing. So more closely tied towards Moolya. But today, the topic that I'm going to cover is, more general. This is nothing to do with anything to do with testing or Moolya. This is more about how human brains think and how we convert our thought process and convert them into documents, and then how we share our thinking. So that is what is going to be core discussion today. If you ask a question, why this and how it is going to help, like how last week I tried to answer why Moolya, this will answer the question why Mindmaps. Okay, so Mindmaps, most of predominantly used in Moolya for various testing activities. Most of you should have been using Mindmaps if you are in Moolya for at least a few months, and some of you might have understood why we use Mindmap, but maybe most of you are using Mindmap because you are asked to use Mindmaps. Okay, so that is the the topic for this week. Okay, so let's start with the more the general term models. Okay, so let's start with a simple term called models. So what comes to your mind when I say model, or when someone say model? Okay, so what is a structure? Okay, Mohan Raj says it's a structure. Okay. No, okay. What kind of structures come to your mind when somebody says model? I'm not asking you a definition, but asking you just
more like a pictorial way where we can understand the things by seeing.
Okay, more of a pictorial way, understanding things by seeing. Okay, it's a representation. Okay, so it's a represents something generally. Okay, I appreciate it because I know will not have the right word there. Model represents
pattern or type, like copy of something. It should be pattern or type. Yeah.
Okay, pattern or type or copy of something, prototype. Yeah. Okay. So I was just saying that, let's Google and see what happens. When I Google models, this is what, Google, shows. So nobody thought about these models. Okay, fine. Okay. This is what Google says. And of course, they are models. They are models. They are also models. And then who else? I'll see some more answers. Yeah, Sneha, that's what she told. Copy, pattern, or prototype. Picture to represent the software design. Okay, let's go back to no, that's nothing wrong, but I just wanted to keep reminding you the disclaimer. This is nothing to do with software. This is nothing to do with testing. This is nothing to do with Moolya. Okay, but still, that's all right. That's also, that's also a relevant answer to model. Okay, so what about these people? Are they not models? So model, this is what Google says. Google shows. It's very unfortunate. It's not. Nobody told about these fashion models. But anyways, let's come back to let's say some examples, right? So that's the first thing I have given. Model on the ramp. When somebody said structure, model apartment, right? So there are some mobile phone models, car models. Okay, now let's try to answer the question. So why do you think somebody said software design to represent a software design, or Ram Prasad said prototype? Why do you think you need a prototype?
Basically, to avoid more of a loss kind of thing, because if we have a model, then we can do the prototype over there, and then we can develop some stuff. Or if we directly jump into the
to avoid mistakes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is more or less like when we see things, right? We are able to connect it more frequently. I mean, if we are able to connect that this with the display, we are able to see through, and we are able to understand each and every component of it.
Okay, so we can connect better. We can understand better. We can avoid mistakes. Okay, so now with all these, for better understanding, it's a blueprint. Yeah, blueprint is, again, I would say, an example of model. The question is like, why do you need a blueprint? Yeah, to give better explanation or representation in a generic way. Okay, so putting all these, together, I know somebody tried to explain. I'll go back and see, because I like that answer, and most of the times I get such answers. Even initially, that's how I try to define myself. What is a model? Model represents. Then there comes a big question mark. Okay, then you end up putting something. So that is more or less a better definition of model. Only thing is we couldn't get the right words to put in there because lack of language understanding. So the way, putting all your understanding, whatever you people said, it is one way or the other. It's actually right representation or right definition or right understanding of model. But how do you put everything together in a more common definition for a model? It is actually a representation of complex things. Okay, what is that something? It's more, replace that something with complex things, not something, but you can call it as more relevant one is complex things. So what is a model? The better or even more clear definition of model is a simplified representation of more complex things. Okay, now put this definition to your something Dinesh was saying. So to avoid mistakes, why? There are more complex things. Okay, your model is a simplified version of that. So you get a more understanding. It gives a better representation in a more general way, like Kavya said or like Priya said. It helps to visualize things better. So a model. So now, if you wanted to define a model is a simplified representation of more complex things. Going back to the models on the ramp. So how do you think? Why do you think they are called models? Because they also represent how a new fashion, a new garment looks on a human being. Right. That's what they do on the ramp. Right. So what does a model apartment helps you understand? It helps you to understand a complex house. So you get a more better understanding of how a real house will look. Right. That's what you get in a model apartment or a model house. Again, mobile phones, it helps you to understand how a mobile phone what features it has. Why do they give a different numbers or different model numbers? Because that way you understand, okay, if this is the model, then I will get these features. If there's a different model, then I get few more other features. So model is a simplified representation of more complex things. So what are those more complex things? It could be an idea. So that is what a software design is, right? Software design was somebody's idea, right? So they put them in a software design document. Is that design document the real software? No. What is that? Go back to the definition. So your software design document is a simplified representation of more complex software, right? A process. So you have seen a lot of process in your life, right? Let's take an example of software field itself. So what are the various process models that you have seen? Common interview questions. I don't know if this is being still asked in this more agile world. So what are the different software development models? So what do we have? So V model, W model. Is this being still asked? Is it still relevant in the industry? I don't know, because I have never attended that level of interviews or taken interviews anymore. So that is a process model, right? So V model, agile methodology. So what does a V model represents? It represents the process in a much simplified way. Right? It might look very simple when you see the diagram of a sprint, right? So there will be some spiral which says 2-week sprint and all those. That is a more simplified representation of a process, right? So what is a system? The entire your software systems maybe represented in a diagram. So that is a model, right? So what does what does the model do? It tried to connect theory with experiment. Okay, so a software design document is more of a theory. That is not the experiment that you are doing, right? But it helps to connect with the real experiment of building the software with your understanding. I'll come to that. It may sound a little weird, but we will get to that. So we all have it in our mind. Okay. So a model is, we all have it in our mind. That is how each one of us understand any complex things or anything, something, whatever it is. So we all have it in our mind, right? We use models to understand complex things, to learn about complex things. We also recognize things using models. We also explore things using models. So we all have it in your mind. We all have it in our mind. Models is the way we understand things. That is the way we recognize things. That is how we learn things. Okay, so what happens after that? Let's say you have understood something or you have learned something, right? Then you apply that learning into the more complex things. Okay, so I'll come with an example. I know it sounds little confusing, but I want that first, then only I want to get an example. So just imagine this: we all have models in our mind. That is how we learn, and then we later apply to the more real complex things. Okay, let's look at an example. How many of you have used Google Maps? Everyone these days, you can't live without Google Maps. So now, whatever we have, discussed so far, now can you try to define what is a Google Map? The answer is in the screen. So what is a Google Map?
It's a kind of a model of the route with where we want to reach.
Yes. So try to. Okay, it is that's right. So it is a model of something. What is that something?
Okay, so let's say if I'm using Google Maps, so if I want to go to a destination, okay, from source to destination, from A to B.
Sorry, Mohan, I'm not.
Visual representation of the routes and how
It gives an
Okay.
idea.
Okay, you people are so close. Just zoom out the Google Map. What will you see?
A guide which takes to our
Yeah,
destination.
that's done. The question is, it is, so we all understood that it's a representation of something. The question is, what is that something?
Representation of what?
Yeah, it's a representation of the entire, our Earth, right? Or maybe, the world, right? So we all know how complex the real world is, right? So what is Google Maps? It's a representation of. So now put the same definition. It is that is being shown here. So what is a Google Map? It is a simplified representation of our world, right? So now, how do you use that? So now, whatever Mohan Raj tried to explain, or Daphne was saying, or Sneha was telling. So now that is the answer to a more of a question. How are we using that model? Okay. So like I think it was Daphne who was saying that we will use and go and find place. Okay. So what is that you are doing using Google Map? You are learning about the route, right? Or you are recognizing the route, or you are exploring, what is the path that I have to take to go. Or if it shows a path, then you try to learn that using what is a map? It's a more simplified representation, right? So we all use that map. See, not only Google Map, even pre-digital era, we had a physical map, right? What people do, you look at that and then try to figure out how do I need to go from A to B. Coming back to the previous answers that you people said, what is a model? It helps to visualize things. It helps to understand it better. So how model helps? So previously we had Google, physical, paper map. Now we have Google Map. The models are becoming better. That's all. So it is being represented much better in Google Map, right? But it's still a model. So what do we do with the model? So we when it shows between point A to point B, we understand that, okay, this is the route that I need to take. You also will realize, okay, how far is, from point A to point B, what kind of, diversions that you need to take or turnings that you need to take. And then you learn that route much better, right? And you recognize, for example, it will show, okay, take a left turn next to Reliance Smart. When you navigate, first is you learn with a simple system. Okay, so your brain first understands only the Google Map. So it is okay, you get a mental picture in your mind, and what you do with it, or what you do after that, you apply in the real life, right? Then when you see a Reliance store or something, I'm just saying, to the route to the Moolya office, so what you do, you take a left turn there, right? So what happened? What is that that happened here? You learned something about the route using a simplified version, which is your Google Map. And later, what you did, you apply to the more real complex things, right? The real world. Is there any guarantee that you will always reach? You will understand it better? No, you make mistakes, right? It will say, take the third exit. In India, we will never know third exit. Okay, which is the third exit? You will be wondering, which one should I take now? You get lost. That's a different thing. But do you agree that our brain understands things better if there is a more simplified version of complex things, right? So that's what we do with Google Map. So Google Map is a model of the real Earth. So what is the weather forecast? It's a model of the real weather, right? So what will you do if you look at your phone? If your weather says it's cloudy, what is that? It's a model of the real weather. So you use that, you learn, oh, okay, it's going to be rainy. So you prepare for that weather, right? So can we think these same concept and try to come back to, I take back the disclaimer, now we are getting into software testing. So can you think of such models that you use in your software testing to learn things? So now I hope you get much better understanding on the concept of models, how each one of us, our brain uses models and try to learn and then later apply in the the real world to solve problems. So can you think of something similar that we do in our software testing in our professional life? Anything that comes to your mind?
Designs, Figma.
Yeah, Jatin, somebody already told. So software design documents, huh? Somebody mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing in software design is a model that we use in our professional life as a testers. Anything else? So what about wireframes?
Automation frameworks which we use.
Frameworks, yes. Framework is a model. Yeah. More simpler.
Like I just gave now.
What did you say, Sneha? You said framework.
Yeah, automation frameworks which we use.
Yeah, automation. Yes, that is also a model.
Yeah.
But what I meant is there are even more common models that we use. That's also right. Yes, automation framework is a model, so we understand certain things and then we implement. That's one a good example.
The architectural diagram.
Yeah, architectural diagram, wireframes. What is the most common thing that we use? Software requirement document, SRS, PRDs, user stories. What are those? What is a software requirement document? Go back and again apply the same definition. What is that? What software? So just apply this. So how will you? What is a software requirement document? It is simplified representation of what?
The software to be built.
Yes, the software to be built. It's a representation of software to be built. See, if something already exists in case of Google Maps, it is a simplified representation of something that is already there, right? If it's an idea, right? For example, it's a simplified representation of more complex things. Google Map is an example of a system which is already in place, which is there in our world, right? So it represents that. But in terms of our, let's say you're building something that doesn't exist, and you wanted to convey that, to others. It's an idea, right? Software is an idea that you are having. So somebody starts writing, document on the idea. So what is it? So it's a representation of the real software that we are about to build. Then, okay, why do we need those models now? That's one good example. Software development thing, Google Map, your wireframes. So what about test cases or test ideas that we write? That is a model of what?
Model of a requirement or a feature.
No, that is the requirement document, right? Your requirement document is the model of the feature. What is the test case? Test ideas.
It's a model of the flow of the system.
Almost, yeah, that's correct. So I mean, so it is actually the model of, for example, if you write a user flow, what is it? It's a model of, you are modeling the user flow, right? So so similarly, if it's a test case, it is model of your real testing. That is not the real testing, right? So you are modeling your testing, right? Your test cases are, models of the real testing. So tomorrow, if you use, so what will happen if somebody comes and looks at the test cases? They will read the test case. Now, what they are doing is they are learning about the testing. What do you do next? You apply it in the real life. What is the real life? That's when you do the testing, real testing, right? So test cases, test ideas are, model of your real testing. That is not the testing. That is model of your testing, right? So these are all the models. So anything that is documented, anything that is being captured, is all model of something else, something more complex. And your wireframes is a model of, the real UI design that is supposed to be, done, right? How wireframe helps. If you look at that, the designers will understand, okay, this is how, things should be. How does requirement document help? So why do you need a requirement document? Now, coming back to the question, okay, we have a requirement document. Why do we need to have these models? Some of the answers has already been discussed at the beginning. So again, now that you have understood, okay, my requirement document is model of a more complex software. My test cases are model of, my testing. So why do we need these models?
To make sure that we are building a correct software.
Yes. So to I can also combine some of the answers which already discussed. Like Dinesh, I think said to avoid mistakes. I think Priya, someone said to have a better understanding, to have more clarity. All these things. That is the reason why we need models, because we all need to be on the same page, right? It is to That is what I told in the beginning. So you have it in your mind, right? So how do you convey that to others? That is the model. So yes, your simple requirement document written in a Word document is a model of something, of the software that you want to build, not something. If it is specific, it's about something, not the word something. So requirement document is what? A simplified representation of the software that somebody wants to build, right? And there are, as human evolve, as technology evolve, as we progress, the humans have found, much better ways to, model their thinking. Okay, so as we evolve, humans started, representing things much better. Okay, so for example, this is how human try to convey his thinking maybe 4,000, 20,000, 30,000 years back. Okay, so this is how things. Then came something called proto writing. It is more of visible, but you will not understand. Then came these kind of what you call representation. Right, then came printing. Right, so these are the ways, different ways that you started representing models. So the answer to the question why we need models is, it is a way that you convey your understanding to others, right? So that is what models are. So a simple document is a model. Okay, so that's about models. Let's keep that one side. Okay, so we discussed about models. Keep that aside. Then we get into mind maps that we often discuss. Who is this?
Mahendra Singh Dhoni.
MS Dhoni.
Okay, great. So start typing in, whatever that comes to your mind when you saw this picture. Now you can even unmute and talk. I'm back. He's hitting a 6 on the last ball. Great captain, great player, confident. Dhoni with his helicopter shot. Indian cricketer. That's the most sad answer that I can have. Indian cricketer. Okay, calm captain, leading from the front, great finisher. Okay. This question is to Sneha. So what made you to answer Indian cricketer?
First, if I have if I didn't analyze his Dhoni, if I was not me, then it will be he represents India and he's a cricketer. So.
Okay.
Yeah. And everyone have already written Dhoni, so.
Yeah, there are a lot of Dhoni fans already said about hit and helicopter shots. Okay. Okay, cricketer is about to hit the ball. Okay.
Yeah, he's Dhoni, and he's known for his helicopter shot. So he is giving his helicopter shot.
Okay.
That's why I mentioned it.
Okay. See, okay. Now let's come back to the reason I wanted to share this and ask people to tell what comes to your mind is this session is more about I told at the beginning itself, right, how we think, thought process, all those. So now, did you ask yourself, hey, why did helicopter shot came to my mind, or why did confident came to my mind? So how do you think your brain is retrieving from your memory? Any idea?
Because we watched him playing cricket.
You watched. So you watched. Thousands of matches. Even in this, it's about World Cup. For somebody, it's more about leading from front. For few, it's World Cup. For few, it's something else. Confident leadership. So why different people said different things?
Because we can see the body language, we can see the shot, and
okay.
yeah.
So why why isn't that, it didn't start somewhere like, okay, this is Dhoni. He was born on July 7th. I don't remember the year. And then he was, let's say you have watched, about his, history. So why don't your brain starts there, and then slowly comes next. Okay, he studied his schooling in somewhere in Jharkhand, Ranchi. Then he was working in Indian Railways. Then he got into Ranji Trophy. Then he got into Indian cricket, where he had a long hair. And then why those things did not come from the beginning? Why something else came?
Because this was visual representation for us, and for all those other moments, we don't even have that. We just heard it.
Okay, you just heard it. This is something that is in front of you.
That's
right?
what.
So, of course, our knowledge, what we have learned, all those things, or some of this. And if I show this to an audience, let's say I've been to Romania for a conference. I was talking about Mindmaps. I can't show this image there, right? They do not have any clue, right? So I tried to pick something that is relevant, but still, each one of you, told something else. So how do you think your brain? What do you think is your brain retrieving from your memory? So it's. I can give one more relevant example of this. Okay, so for instance, when I was having another session taking about the same thing, there was, I think you all know Sweta, right? Some of you have interacted. So she was also there. She was answering, a few things. You know what? That triggered me a completely different, memory out of this image, because when this World Cup was in 2011, both Sweta and I were working in the same organization. Okay, I was coming from, it was near the hockey stadium. So for this match, it was I think it was a working day or something, or it was India-Pakistan quarterfinal or semi-final. So we came back. I came back to home to watch the match. It's a day-night match around 2:00. So when I came back from the Langford Road to come to BTM, entire Bangalore, nobody was on the road. Okay, I still remember that. So that is the memory that triggered. Why? Because there was someone whom I worked, and suddenly those things started to trigger. And most other sessions, for me also something else comes. Mostly the World Cup match and how the six was hit and carrying Tendulkar, all those things come. So why I am recollecting that is how, again, to drive the point of how our brain operates. It is not random. It's not that your thoughts came randomly. Okay. And it is also not linear. That is why I try to ask a question. Why is not that, when you realize that this is Dhoni, but it's your brain never takes up the timeline starting from, some specific point and then keep doing next. It is not linear. Okay. So your brain does not, it is not random. It is not linear. But how do you think the brain retrieves the memory? It is associating. Okay, it starts associating things and then start connecting. It is not like a linear fashion. It is not like a random. It is not random. So your things don't come randomly. It didn't come to you. There is something that is associated memory that is getting triggered. For example, now if I say okay, Sneha said role model. So if I say a role model, now tell me what comes to your mind. Your mom. Great.
Someone you look up to.
Yeah, someone you look. Okay. You look after? What you said? Roger Federer. Wow. Okay. Inspired. Okay. Sachin. Okay. Okay, what else? Inspiration about them. Okay. School time. Okay. Allocation. Okay. Allocation. Okay. That inspires you. Nice. Okay. want to follow their path. Okay, what comes to your mind when somebody says my mom? Family. Okay. The way love, support. Okay. Love and support. Work to reach their goals. Workplace. Okay. Everything. Okay. Okay. Everything comes to your mind. Okay. Okay. What else? Food, of course. That is something that comes to my mind immediately. Okay. Food, decision making. Okay. Something that the dedication and sincerity is what comes to my mind after food or even before food. Okay, decision making. Yeah, okay. See what when Abhishek said decision making, that is when their dedication came to my mind. Okay, when for example, when Lisa said food, suddenly I was in a place where I am having food made by my mom. That's what came to my mind. Okay, so that's again, if you connect these, it's all about associative. It start associating things, handling failures, decision making. Yeah. Okay, so the next thing is if the way our memory or our brain operates is associative. Okay, as I try to prove the point that it is not linear, it is not random, it is always associative. But there is a major problem with respect to the way we try to transfer our brain's thought process to a tool, right? Which could be any of your note-taking tool, which could be any of your thing that is recording your memory, right? So what you do, you all these things, you start when you wanted to convey your thinking, your idea, or something to others. We try to put it in a Word document, and then we share it with others. That is how you convey your memory or your idea to somebody else, right? But the problem with all these documents are they are linearly structured. For example, even this document, what I have done is more of linearly structured. So it starts somewhere here, then comes here, then comes this. So it's a linearly structured, right? So, but our memory, as we've seen, it does not operate that way. It's more of associative. It connects, different ideas. But unfortunately, all your notes taking are, more of a linear format. That is where more a tool which is more closer towards the way you think is the mind map. Okay, so mind map helps you to visualize organization. It helps you visualize things. Like again, many of you are already driven this point because it's easy to see and understand, right? And it is easy to visualize. And it captures relationship. Yeah. So it starts capturing relationship, right? So this is how it is more visually structured. So if the same thing that if you have started, so we started with, MSD, and then, let's say how it actually happened is we had a lot of, other things as well. Let's say these are the topics that you talk about, leadership, Sikhs, what else? Indian cricketer. Okay, so if I have, let's say we have started capturing all these things here, this is how it has started. Then came, role model. And then from role model, all these things emerged. So see this, I can easily, drag and drop like this, and, all these things happen. Okay, it's easy to, organize structure. So it's all started with, even it could be a image from the session. This is what it all started, right? It's easy to restructure. So tomorrow, if you are capturing certain ideas, it's easy to connect the relevant things, and then you can move around easily. Just imagine same thing you have done in a Word document. or you have taken a notes in your pen and paper, right? It will be a more of a linear format. Let's say tomorrow, if you wanted to, connect between these, associate these ideas, it won't be structured. Sorry, it will be more easier, than looking at a linear format. Okay, so it's the same thing, right? So this is how mind maps helps. They are radical, non-linear, intuitively arranged, so that you can, look around. So somebody said Roger Federer. So here is an example of, tennis is what I keep, showing in these sessions. So here is a mind map of, about the tennis, the sports tennis, right? If the same thing is documented in a regular format, it would have been a 3-4 page, and you may not know what are the important thing that I need to be aware of tennis. Okay, now if it's put like this, I know, okay, the most important things are there are some shots and there are different surfaces, there are different tournaments, and there are the scoring points and all those. So now what I can do is I can even connect. For example, I might connect, Wimbledon with grass. Maybe I will put an arrow like this, and then I can connect. So now it's easily connected, right? So Wimbledon with grass, and maybe where is the Roland? Here I will connect this with clay, and maybe I will connect Australian Open and US Open with hard. Right now it's easy to connect. Right? So ATP finals, it's a very old one. So Pete Sampras and Federer, they were at the same point. Oh, it's the most title is was Federer. It is even not before. It's after he took over. Sampras. Okay, I don't know how old is this. Is 10, 12 years old. That is when I took this. But this is an example of a mind map, right? So this is how it is done. Mind maps. Now I showed you, all these things that so this is what we have covered. See, look at this. Now I need to again scroll through. I need to look at all these. But if the same thing, whatever we have discussed so far in this session, okay, so look at that. I have put everything in a single mind map. Okay, see this. This is what we have covered now. Okay, this was done. Forget about the date. So we started with models, right? What is a model? A simplified representation of a complex things. Why models? So we understand, explore, study, and then learn, all those things. So whatever we took an example of Google Maps, and we get into memory, and then finally we got into mind maps, and we are looking at the samples of the mind map. Is this more visible? Is it not that within a single glance you get to know what is covered today? This is a much better representation of the same thing, right? It's not. There is nothing. Google Docs also, previously the Coda page also had the same. This also had the same. But why do you think this is more relevant? Because the way our memory and the brain operates, this is a much better representation. The same way, go back to Google Maps and see. Maybe the Google Map app is a much better representation than a physical, paper. Right? The same way here. So that is why we use mind maps. It helps to model our understanding better. It is a more visual, represent things. And if you look at this example, what we have seen, so tomorrow, if you will start connecting, so there could be some connection between, let's say, for example, decision making, or somebody said about, handling failures. Okay, somebody said about handling failures. Okay, so is there anything that you can connect between the handling failures and something else here? So I see a connection between, even people like it's a leadership. It's a leadership quality, right? Handling failures. We already have something here, right? And then it connects with MS Dhoni. So you can easily start connecting what is there in this image. If the same thing is in a 5-6 page linear document, you may not be able to easily connect between things that is more visible in this. And the other advantage that mind map software tools like Xmind provide is it's easy to drag and drop, like how I showed you, right? So quickly, first the concept is like you will be off. So there is something called divergence and convergence, right? In brainstormings, you all do this. So initially, I asked, okay, put everything that comes to your mind. We started putting here. Let's say after 1 hour of brainstorming, let's say apply the same right? So this, let's say you are doing the same thing for your testing brainstorming session. You start, you put the feature instead of MSD, it will be the feature. You start asking, okay, what ideas come to your mind? That is more of a divergence. You try to put in everything that comes to mind. So maybe 10-15 thoughts will come. Then after half an hour, you will say, okay, now we got enough. Now we'll start converge towards one topic. Probably, let's say, somebody said we need to do security testing. Somebody said we need to do UI testing. Somebody said we need to do device coverage. Okay, fine. We got 10-15 things now. So now all these things are now intuitively arranged your central topic rather than being one by one in your notepad or a Google Doc. Right now you see, then suddenly you will realize, oh, okay, given the context, all those things, okay, security testing is more important. Now let's focus on security testing. What we need to do on security testing. So how from this role model emerged, it will go. And at one point, you will not get ideas. So you can say that, okay, now that's why I asked, okay, what comes to your mind when somebody says my mom? So how, then we go a little more deeper. So now if I ask a question, what comes to your mind if somebody says decision making? It completely takes you a different path altogether, right? And all these discussions, ideas, brainstorming things can be more better intuitively arranged in a mind map. It's easy to share and connect between your thoughts. That is the core reason why we use mind maps. If you are in Moolya, if you are asked to use mind maps, that is the purpose. It is not that just because we know we are using mind maps. Okay. So this modeling, now connecting back, now have you got the idea of how we started with models and we eventually ended up how memory works and mind maps. So this is the core reason why we use mind maps. And one important thing that in general in other school of thought where they don't give importance is this modeling. How you think, how you model your approach, or how you model your testing. That process is very critical in a Moolya way of testing. That is where we use our modeling and mind maps to structure our testing. Okay, so that is the reason why I wanted to first introduce you to how our brain thinks, what is model, what are models, and how mind maps. All these three M's are connected, right? Your mind or your memory, your models, and your mind mapping software. Okay, so these three will be the core or central towards Moolya way of testing. For example, if you go back to the 4 views of testing, and let's get into the context-driven testing. What is their core belief? What is this? So it's a skilled mental activity, right? So it gives importance to your thinking, right? Not following a process or not following a technique. Okay, it gives importance to your mental activity, thinking. It's multidisciplinary. So that is why our Moolya way of testing is modeled around or centered around how you model your testing. So to model the testing is what we use mind maps. That is why today we focused on models. So that's pretty much. There's one small piece I missed to cover. I think that should be okay. I'll quickly get into some examples are given. Okay, I'll touch upon only this part: how to create mind maps. So you have already created. I'm sure that most of you are using. So how to create mind maps? You should be knowing by now if you are using. So there are many ways: pen and paper. The tennis example is a pen and paper. And there are many tools that is that is available for you. But in Moolya, we prefer Xmind predominantly for the features that it is having. For example, the markers, the legends. That is the core reason why we use Xmind. There is no other reason we prefer Xmind. So if for your personal needs, if you want to try, you can try a lot of other nice, more artistic way of doing things. You can try a lot of other tools. Xmind is more professional, neat, clean way of doing mind maps for professional needs. Okay, Y part we have done. Where again it's all here and there I touched upon things like notes taking, brainstorming, simplifying complex systems you can use, when you wanted to capture ideas, thought information. That is the live example that we tried. We try to capture our thoughts around an image, right? So it helps to capture, it can later classify, it can helps to visualize, structure, organize, all those things can be done. The core thing that I wanted to tell is the guideline in terms of creating mind maps. Okay, there is only one, guideline that you need to follow. The rest, it's all up to you. There is no right or wrong way of doing things. If the same mind map, if somebody else created, it would have been completely different. Or if the group of audience is someone else, this mind map could have been completely different. Okay. For example, if I shown the same thing to a group of cricketers, hardcore cricket fans or hardcore Dhoni fans or MSD fan or the CSK fans, things could have been completely different. So there is the same image could have been a different mind map altogether. So there are no right or wrong way of creating mind maps. Okay, so only probably I would use the word rule. The only rule is you should avoid lengthy sentences. That's all. Why avoid lengthy sentences is because this is to trigger your thoughts. Mind maps are more to, trigger your thoughts to associate between things. If there is a lengthy sentence, your mind will focus there. It will try to read that sentence and try to decode and understand. It will not scan what is there on the mind map. Okay, so that is the only thing. Other than that, you should have your own way of creating mind maps. Okay, so that's pretty much for today. So with this, I want you to go back and try to see how you can use mind maps much better, not only in testing, wherever you want. For example, if you notice this, I don't know. Here is an example. This is something that I have it here. I do it for my own need. It's nothing to do with work. I'm learning something. I keep tracking it here. Okay, so you can do whatever, wherever you need, you can use mind map. Wherever you are using, let's say, a notes taking app, try to replace it with mind map and then see if it helps. Okay, so that's pretty much. So we have started with Moolya's vision, how context-driven testing is relevant to Moolya way of testing, and it gives an emphasis on thinking and modeling your thinking. So that is the reason why today we looked at mind maps and modeling. So next we will see the complete, the model of Moolya way of testing. That is what we will see in the next 2 weeks. Okay, so that's pretty much